Welcome to this lesson on the keys to success for getting sales calls. In this lesson, you're going to learn the 5 keys to success for getting sales calls using prong number 2 of your 3-prong approach. To quickly summarize what we covered about prong number 2, which leverages social media, in the previous module, you'd already started implementing the first 2 steps of this prong. You found 2 to 3 groups where your audience is hanging out and then implemented 2 weeks of the being seen strategy. In other words, you started building some brand recognition and a few relationships. Now you're ready for the final step of this prong, which is to drive sales using those same groups that you've now spent time building some relationships in. This section will show you all the tactics you can use to drive sales, and this 3rd step is something you'll be doing weekly until you have the number of clients that you want or need before you're ready to move on to prong number 3. If you remember, in the previous module, we went over the one strategy that all of your marketing and sales boils down to, and that is that you need to continually generate leads for your business, a percentage of whom will indicate interest in your solution and so become prospects. Out of those prospects, a percentage of them will buy from you and thus become your customers. Every tactic you're going to learn in this section for generating sales calls will continue to follow that strategy. You'll create some sort of free offer, whether that's a post, a free call, a live stream, or a webinar, to generate leads and qualify prospects, and that offer will lead into an invite to schedule a sales call with you. Really take a minute and absorb the fact that all tactics come back to this one strategy, because once you realize this, you can get as creative as you want with how you use a free offer to drive someone to a sales call. It's not complicated, and while creative entrepreneurs can get inventive with the tactics they use to do this, this strategy remains unchanged. As you've seen throughout this course with everything you've done and set up to date, all roads lead to the sales call where you sell your offer. You don't try and sell through email or through your website. And there's a very powerful reason for that. Think about it. Would you be willing to pay a few $100 or a few $1,000 to someone without having ever spoken to them? Probably not. And that applies for most people. Which is why, to make a higher price sale, you need to shift the environment from the internet to an in-person phone call, because the investment, and thus the stakes, are higher. As you scale your business into digital products and courses, that will change, and you will be able to remove yourself from the sales process, but this is where you start. Remember, as we discussed in the introductory module, you're starting here to get the highest return on your time investment and highest profitability to start. Before we get to all the great tactics you can use to promote your offer and to get your audience to schedule a sales call with you, there's something very important that you need to hear first. Yes, the first step to getting sales calls starts with knowing how to actually get them, and the implementation guides in this section will absolutely help you with that. But at the end of the day, what you're learning here is not a quote-unquote secret that only you and I know, and these tactics aren't magical or end-all be-all. In fact, there are really only a few ways to get sales calls, and these methods have been recycled over and over by every online business owner in existence, sometimes in very creative ways, but recycled nonetheless. While these tactics are very powerful, just knowing them and the theory behind them won't guarantee your success. And in fact, lots of struggling entrepreneurs don't struggle because they're ignorant of these tactics. They struggle because of a handful of very common fears and mistakes that I'm going to outline so that you know what they are and can make sure that you don't let them hold you back. There are 3 main fears that hold most aspiring entrepreneurs back. The first 2 are the fear of visibility and the fear of self-promotion. This is self-explanatory, but even knowing it doesn't necessarily mean that you're immune to it. We all have fears of promoting ourselves and of hearing crickets, of being vulnerable, and of failing. The only difference between those who succeed and those who don't is that those who ultimately do succeed make the decision to persist despite those fears, not because of a lack of them. Don't let your fear hold you back, and don't talk yourself into waiting until the time is right. There's only one right time ever, and that time is now. The third fear is the fear of failure, which causes entrepreneurs to give up too soon. The only way you will truly fail is if you give up. Otherwise, it's literally just a matter of time. Sure, maybe it'll take you a little longer than that entrepreneur with the "I made $100 million overnight" story. But it's a fatal mistake to compare yourself to others and to despair simply because you don't think you're getting results as quickly as everyone else. You don't know anyone else's story, and you don't know how long it truly took before their quote-unquote overnight success. So be kind to yourself and trust that the process that has worked for every other successful entrepreneur out there will work for you too. Aside from the common fears, there are also a few common mistakes that can significantly slow down your progress. First, you must speak to your ideal client's burning pain points and desires. This is key. Remember, the thing that people care about the most is their pains and their dreams. It's not hard, and your research will already have told you what those hot buttons to press are. Refer back to your research and always double check that you're speaking to those pains and dreams and using their language to do so. Next, to stand out, you must share your unique message about what you do, what exactly you can help with, and how your offer is different. This is where your hook comes in. Don't be just another copycat talking about the same generic benefits and results, because not only are you so much more than that, but also no one will remember you if you do. Finally, and this is the most important thing, be consistent, both with your actual marketing and with working on your mindset. It's literally more than 90% of the work of being an entrepreneur, and as you feel fear, which is inevitable, impatience that you're not seeing results fast enough, which is also inevitable, and uncertainty about whether or not you'll ever get to where you want to be, refer back to the exercises and beliefs that are covered in the Secrets to Success section of this program. Listen to the content, reread Psycho-Cybernetics and do the exercises, and be consistent in your daily mindset work of maintaining your belief that your business will succeed. Every action you take brings you one step closer to success. You might not see it right away, but it's the same thing as with a boiling pot of water. Even though you can't see the water heat up, it's happening beneath the surface, and sooner or later, all of your momentum will build up until you break through to your boiling point. Your only job is to be consistent with your mindset and persist with your marketing and your sales until you get to where you want to be. As you implement and test the tactics that are covered in this section's implementation guide to get more sales calls, remember to be scientific about it and to use the success tracker that we covered in the previous module. Review that lesson again if you need to, because being consistent and continuing to test is still the ultimate key to success. In case you're wondering how many calls you need to get the number of clients that you want, the answer is the more the better. In the beginning, as you work on your sales skills, it is a bit of a numbers game. The more sales calls you can get on, the more likely it is that you'll convert a client. On average, you can expect about 10 calls before you get your first client, although it might be a lot sooner if you've been following the strategies and to-dos shared in this course up to this point. The standard sales conversion rate is about 15%, which means that for every 6 calls or so that you take, you can expect to convert 1 client. That being said, you can also expect this number to increase significantly as you get better at sales calls and as you become more established. If you're implementing the tactics in the implementation guide for this section, but not getting the results that you want on the first try, that's okay. In fact, it's completely normal. When that happens, don't assume that the tactic won't work for you, because remember, these tactics are working for every other online business owner out there. And don't just write it off and move on to the next one. Instead, decide on a few tactics that you're going to keep on testing until they click for you. Here are the most common reasons that a tactic might not be working. Check through these and tweak as needed until you're getting the number of calls that you want. First, Are you truly speaking to the pain and or dream? A very common mistake, and the number one reason a promotion fails, is to think that you're addressing the pain or dream when in reality, you aren't. For example, if you're a health coach who helps people with weight loss, sharing a great tip or assessment about the foods they should be eating that are good for them is useful, but it's not speaking to the pain and desire of wanting to lose weight and look hot. Next, research how the tactic is being used successfully by others in your industry or even outside of it. This is not about copying, but if someone is offering the same thing you are and using the same tactic you are, and if they're succeeding and you're not, it's smart to research what the difference is and to apply those learnings to your business. Finally, make sure you're testing all the different variables. Maybe the group you're promoting in isn't a good fit for you. Maybe the tactic you're trying just doesn't work well for your energy and personality. Or maybe you need to test a different free offer. Test all of the possible variables and approach this in a scientific manner until you figure out what's not working. In this video, we covered the one strategy that all sales tactics boil down to, the most common fears and mistakes that prevent entrepreneurs from getting sales calls and how you can overcome them, benchmarks to know how well you're doing, and what to do if you're not getting as many calls as you would like. Your next steps now are to use the Ultimate Guide to Getting Sales Calls Implementation Guide to get started with your sales tactics, and the Your Marketing and Sales Schedule Implementation Guide to plan your marketing and sales schedule so that you can stay consistent and get the results that you want. Afterwards, move on to the Your Webinar section, where we'll be discussing how you can start leveraging yourself to get even faster and bigger results with prong number 3.